Hi, everyone. Welcome in. We're really excited today for our webinar. Hi, guys. Hello, Evelyn. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I am very excited to be back. I have been MIA a little bit on the past couple of webinars, so I have missed everyone. And lucky for you, you're going to only have to see me for a little bit and I'll be in and out, but I will be manning the chat a little bit. But for anyone who is new, my name is Shantae Pitts and I am the Learning and Development Specialist for STEM Education Works. My job basically entails helping write curriculum for our technology, which I'm currently working on one that should hopefully be coming out soon, hopefully. That is a career and technical education curriculum for grades pre-K through 5th. And this is the first time we've written pre-K curriculum, and it's utilizing some of our main technologies like Microbit and Sphero Bolt Plus, which we're going to talk about today. Some 3D printing, some robotic arms, and we're really excited about this. It's basically taking different pathways in career and technical education and applying it to certain careers within that department, and then taking that and applying it to the learning standards that the kids have to learn anyways. So by the time they get out of 5th grade, they're going to have knowledge of about 6 to 7 different careers in each topic. And I'm very excited about it. It's been an amazing journey of learning, and I'm full-fledged in it right now. So anyways, we're really excited to do this webinar today with Sphero. Brad and I, who is going to take over in a minute, have known each other for a little while now. And I have very much enjoyed getting to know him and learning so much from him on ways that we can use the Sphero products. Today's focus is going to be on Sphero Bolt Plus. And so I'm going to let Brad introduce himself and take over on that. And I'm going to be manning the chat and hopefully questions. I'm going to pass it to Brad.
All right. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Brad Fessler. I am the Professional Development Manager here at Sphero. Just to give you a little of my background, I was a high school tech and engineering teacher for 15 years. Also taught at Millersville University. I see there's a bunch of people posting in the chat from Pennsylvania, and Maryland. So you probably are familiar with Millersville if you've been there. I also did a lot of curriculum writing for Engineering by Design, their high school curriculum. So been around the tech and engineering education world for a little bit, and am happy to share some of my experience here about Bolt Plus tonight. If you catch me say Bolt, I'm referring to Bolt Plus. It's just a bad habit. So with that being said, welcome everyone, and we'll get right into those slides. So today's webinar is titled Electrify Learning with Bolt Plus. We really have some really cool new features with Bolt Plus. So if you're familiar with any of our previous round robots, we have some really cool things that we're going to talk about today and demo. But just to kind of kick us off in the right way, we have this really cool video that one of my coworkers, Nate, did an amazing job acting in. So we'll take it off with Nate's amazing Mad Scientist video. Awesome. So Nate is not only an amazing actor, he's also an amazing educator before coming here to Sphero and still does some of our PD from time to time. So if you know Nate, give him a good shout out here for his acting skills as well. So our next biggest star today is Bolt Plus. And Bolt Plus is a spherical robot. So I have a one of our Bolt Pluses here. So you can kind of, there we go, try and get it up right. So you can see it has this really cool display on there. So if you're familiar with some of our older robots, they didn't have that really cool LCD display. So that's one of the big highlights, but there's a lot of other cool stuff under the hood too. So there's 3 ways to program Bolt Plus. We can do draw-based programming where we actually just draw a path on the screen and set the color, and Bolt Plus is off and running. It's really great when students are transitioning from some of our other tools like Indy, where you're not using a programming device. And this is the first time they're connecting to a robot, using a programming device, that kind of thing. It really is nice transition for them to do that. Then we go into block-based programming and JavaScript programming from there. We do have something new coming later this year with text-based programming. As you might guess, it's Python, and it is coming later this year. So hang tight if you're a Python programmer. It is on its way. Under the hood here, we have a bunch of really cool sensors in there. Infrared sensors for sending and receiving messages between robots so they can actually communicate with each other. We have an ambient light sensor so that the robot can read the actual light levels inside of the room, as well as a 6-axis IMU that basically allows the robot to tell where it is in space, the forces that are acting on it. And the really cool part is it can take all this data and it logs all the data and streams it back to the programming device. So not only can you see it real time on the programming device, but it records it too. So some of you here are probably familiar with a town called Hershey, PA. There's probably some sweet treats that you might have had out of that town before. They have a really cool theme park there, and our high school physics club used to go there once a year, and it wasn't Bolt Plus, but it was Bolt, and we used to take Bolt, write a program for it to data log. Students would go and ride a ride with the robot in like a zippered pocket. They would take that data, save it in a CSV file, and then exchange that data with other students when they got back to school. And they would reverse engineer the ride based on that data. So it really allowed them to use it as a scientific sensor, not just program and have it roll around on the floor. So you can do some really cool stuff that way. One of the new things that we've added is the ability to manually drive the robot while inside of a program. So students, once they discover that drive functionality, they just want to drive it around, and they're like, I don't need to program it anymore. I can make it move just by moving my finger on the screen. We tried to find some fun ways to integrate those manual drive commands into the program. So there's now drive blocks that you can put in the program, which allows students to manually drive it within the program and then shut that off. There's some really cool lessons that go with that functionality as well in our content. And we added that LCD screen. So we have a whole new set of images, animations, and we can even see that sensor data live on the robot now, not just on the programming device. So pretty cool to be able to do that. And if you've ever used any of our events category blocks before, we added a new event category there. And that event category that we are block that we added is a software button. So you can actually add up to 3 software buttons in any program at any point in time. So you can actually press a button on the screen and interact with that robot, which is really opens up some really cool options for you. So this is what Bolt Plus looks like. Don't worry, no Bolt Pluses were harmed in the making of this animation. That's the beauty of the CAD world, right? But this also exists in all of our apps for all of our robots, so you can actually see the internal workings. We want students to understand a little bit about how this thing works, not just that it, hey, I can do this with it. So kind of cool thing to check out in our apps as well. So I mentioned the different ways we can program. So this is draw-based programming. You basically set a color and a speed. Students are learning sequencing. They're learning the concepts of inputs and outputs. Something to know here is when you turn the speed up and draw a line, it actually makes a thicker line on the screen. So a thicker line means higher speed. So you can actually draw that square you're seeing on the screen at 4 different speeds. So it'll look like a square on the screen, but then when it moves, it's actually going to be like a little bit of a rectangle because each side's going to be a different speed. The cool part is it's real coding, because under the hood, you're actually writing JavaScript code that's being sent to the actual robot. Cool part about that is you can see the JavaScript right inside of our app. And so this doesn't matter if you're doing block-based coding or draw-based coding, you can actually see the JavaScript code right there. This will also be true when we hit Python. You'll be able to see that equivalent code as well. So it really helps students when they're making that jump into the text-based world. So block programming, if you're familiar with Scratch, right, it's drag and drop blocks, snap them together. I call it the Lego block of the coding world, or now maybe the blueprint of the Lego world, right? If you're familiar with our blueprint product where you snap pieces together. The cool part about it is it's very easy to get started. It has a pretty low floor to get you started, but it has a pretty high ceiling. You can make some really complex programs with block coding. Everyone thinks like, hey, block coding is just like, it's the easy thing to do. We're actually hearing that a lot of industry experts, where they're actually building things in real life settings, not educationally, are actually starting to adopt block coding programs in their facilities to use that. There's actually Google's doing a whole thing on that right now, exploring those concepts. You can do some pretty advanced things. So here you can see in this particular animation, it is the old Bolt, not Bolt Plus, but we're using that sensor data here with a bunch of if-then statements, looking at the pitch of the gyroscope in there to see what that orientation looks like. So kind of cool things that you can do with it. Of course, we can bring in that text programming. Right now it is JavaScript. We do have a help wiki to help people through that part. Again, you always have the fallback of you can code it in block and then take it over to JavaScript to be able to see what that looks like, and even copy and paste the code if you need to. So really nice crutch there to help you in that transition. And like I said, hang tight because there's some cool stuff coming with Python as well. So how do we get connected to this thing? If you're familiar with Bolt, we used to use a different method. We used to call it the Harry Potter method. It's not just because I'm in Florida at the moment that I'm saying that. That was actually what we used to do where you had to just like connect to a robot, see which one lights up and go. We listened to our customers, so we made a lot of big changes here for Bolt Plus. We now use what we call the take and shake method. Pick up the robot, you can walk around with it, and you're ready to go. Right on the actual robot, there's a little blue license plate. You can kind of see it just below the screen there that has the connection ID on it. as well as when you shake the robot to wake it up, it will cycle through a bunch of animations. You're seeing that in that little animation here, and it will cycle through those things and actually show you the connection code as well as the battery state. So you can see all of that right there. It makes it really easy to uh, get right into that particular robot instead of accidentally connecting to someone else's and then trying to figure out which robot you're connected to. Of course, best practices with our robots, in an ideal educational setting, we say it's a 2-to-1 ratio. We know that doesn't always work. So sometimes you have to stretch that out to, 3-to-1 or whatever to make it work for the number of robots and students you have. But best practice is 2 students to 1 robot. They do pair programming where they switch on and off, or if they're doing a much larger type of lesson, they can trade off. I do this part of the lesson, you do that part of the lesson, and we help structure that in our lessons. Also, since it is a spherical robot, aiming it is a thing, right? You have to know which way 0 degrees is so that we know which way is going to roll when we set our heading. You used to have to go in, just like we're seeing right now in this animation, and use the software to do it. You can still do that, but you can actually now manually aim Bolt Plus. So you can grab it, turn it to the direction you want. When you hit the start button, that automatically sets your heading to 0 and is off and running. If you use our RVR or RVR Plus robot, it works the same way that RVR or RVR Plus does for aiming. So whole new concept. It really helps students with trying to be very precise with their aim and get it going in the right direction. So since we added some new features, we needed to add some new blocks to our coding canvas. So we added the display and matrix blocks that are here. So if you used Bolt before, you use that LED matrix, we now broke all of those out into their own category. And we added a display category for the actual Bolt Plus screen. All of our blocks and categories are color coded. So as you can see in the lower left corner of the screen here, we have this movements block, and we can see that color matches the category of the movements category. Students are students, and they're always going to find the craziest way to program something, the most obscure way that you've never even thought about, and somehow it works, right? And or maybe it doesn't work, and they ask you like, hey, I'm not sure why this isn't working. And you look at their code and you're like, I don't even know where you found that block, let alone what it does, right? So I can help answer part of that right now. Look at the color of the block, find that same color in the categories. That's where they found the block. So very helpful to do that. We also have found that, having a ton of blocks on the screen at one time in those categories can sometimes be overwhelming, right? If you've ever opened some like different programs out there and there's like a million buttons on the screen and you're like, oh yeah, that's way too much, and you just close it, right? We don't ever want to have our students feel like that. So we have simplified our categories. So now at the end of each category, you'll see 2 arrows that kind of point outward. If you're looking for a block that's not showing in the category, hit those arrows and it will expand the category, and all of the blocks are still there. We did not get rid of any of them. So if you are familiar with any of the older robots, you can still find all those blocks. Just hit the arrows. So Bolt Plus, when you buy a power pack, not only comes with 15 robots in the charging case, which is really cool, but it comes with a bunch of accessories in there. And one of those accessories is a set of 20 challenge cards. So those challenge cards are those quick hit, like, let's get this thing out and get going. It's the basic skills to get them started. So here's an example of that with challenge card 1 called Get Rollin'. And it explores the difference between the 2 different types of roll blocks. We have a roll for time, which is what most of you are probably familiar with if you've used any of Bolt or Spark Plus or any of our older round robots. where you set a heading, a speed, and a time, and the robot is off and running. But, and I actually skipped this on a previous slide on purpose, we also added a new feature with Bolt Plus where it can roll to a specified distance. So that is where the roll to distance block comes in. And roll to distance allows you to set your heading, your speed, and the distance you want it to go. So in this particular example, students build this program, they set Bolt Plus loose, and it will not return to the same starting point. So they now need to go in and tweak the parameters of their roll block to get it to travel the same distance forward as it does backward. So that way the start and stop point ends up being the same. So real quick way to get them hands-on, have some fun, but they're also problem solving and learning about coding in this at the same time. Another example here is challenge card 2 called Ready, Set, Drive. And this is using those manual driving commands. So the way this program works is it will speak, it will turn on manual driving, which on the student's programming device, whether it's, an iPad, a Chromebook, a laptop, whatever they might be using, it's going to turn on that manual driving interface right on that device. They can manually drive it around. In this case, we have a delay set here for 5 seconds. They'll be able to drive it for 5, and then it's going to turn manual driving off and then play a sound. Right. And they can play around with this and experiment with like more time. What happens if I add roll blocks? Maybe let's add some style and display some images, not just play sounds, because that's always fun to give it its own little style too. And when we were creating all these images and animations, we were very purposeful about them. They weren't just a bunch of random things that are in there. We thought about content and how teachers might want to use this to teach some interesting things. So challenge card 9 is called Metamorphosis and is showing the life cycle of a butterfly. So those display images are showing each stage of that life cycle. And there's other things beyond the butterfly that there's stages for. If we're trying to learn how to read a clock, we have all the different hours of the day and clocks. There's animations of the clock spinning, right? So we were very purposeful of adding that media, not only in fun ways, but in ways that are going to make for some really great, engaging content. So at this point, before we talk about a bunch of other things, if anyone has any questions about Bolt Plus, be happy to take that quick break here and entertain some Bolt Plus questions.
Hey, Brad, you're doing great.
Awesome.
I feel like I've already learned some stuff, though.
Great. That's great.
Which is exciting. Does anyone have any questions for Brad at this point? We're going to talk a little bit more about the platform after this, but if you have any questions, you can type them up in the chat and we can answer them before we move on. I've been monitoring and you must be doing an amazing job because nobody has posted any questions yet.
It's good. We're going to have some awesome Bolt Plus and Sphero experts at the end of this webinar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Tim's saying the upgrades are sounding awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. We really try to listen to, educators that are using our products of like, hey, what are your pain points? We want to make them better. And we really tried to take a lot of that feedback with Bolt Plus and make it as great of a robot as we possibly can.
Yes. Also, stay tuned because he is going to talk about the trade-in program. If you have Bolts and you're like, oh my gosh, I love these Bolt Plus, he is going to give you some good news about that. So hold tight.
All right. Let's see.
Here's one more question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kelly. We do actually have challenge cards for Bolt. They're not printed. They don't come in the kit, but they're available on Sphero Central, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, and how to get to those. It's actually edu.sphero.com. Click on the programmable robot section, which says like Bolt Plus, RVR Plus Mini, And then you'll be able to filter by robot. So you can choose Bolt and click on the resources button. And there's tons of awesome resources like the challenge cards and different educator guides, summer camp guides, all kinds of really cool things.
Awesome. I also put a link in the chat, so you can take that and go there if you want to look at it when he's talking about the platform.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. We will have time. Oh, yes. I love that somebody's bringing that up.
Yep. Hang tight on that. I have slides here towards the end of our presentation. So I get to torture you for just a few more minutes before I give you all the fun stuff. But hang tight. There are some really cool things coming with being able to upgrade them.
Yay.
All right. With that being said, let's keep rolling. And we're going to talk about the platform. Our new content platform just rolled out in the middle of 2024 is called Sphero Central, and it is like your one-stop shop for all Sphero content. So it doesn't matter what kind of Sphero device you have, it is all there in one place. And I say one-stop shop, but 99.9% of our content is free. So I say shop, but you're shopping with that 100% discount code, right? Which is awesome. Everybody loves the discount code. You don't even have to enter it. It's there for free. So when we talk about Sphero Edu, there's actually two sides of Sphero Edu. There's the student-facing side, which is the Sphero Edu app, which is also a web app, which I'll talk about here in just a few minutes. But this is where you connect to the robot, you program it, you complete your lessons, and it is completely student facing, right? Not that teachers don't go in there at all. Maybe you go in and actually do the lesson ahead of time, just so you can, kind of, figure it out and play around with it that way. But it is where the students will go. But then we also have Sphero Central, and that is that edu.sphero.com. And Shantae put that in the chat earlier. You go in there, and that is the teacher-facing side of things. And it's where you find lessons. You can create your own and assign your own lessons there. Also, on a note on that, you can actually create your own lessons and then not only put them out there for your students, but you can submit them to be publicly published in our community section. They do go through a moderation process, so they don't show up instantly, but they are there. There's like some amazing community-based lessons that are out there because you all are amazing educators and throw out some really cool content. But you can put that stuff out there. It's also where you create and manage classes. What you cannot do directly from Sphero Central is connect to a robot or run code. However, the little asterisk here is you will also find a link to our web app there, and that is where you can connect in a web browser to be able to actually run your code. So let's talk about classes and creating that class management side of things. You actually never need to do this if you don't want to. You can use Sphero Edu without ever logging into it, never creating a class. There is a workflow for that kind of deployment. So you don't ever have to deal with that if you don't want to. But there are ways to be able to create a class and have students, I'll say, log in, and I'll put the air quotes up there because there's different levels of logging in to make things really easy that you never have to worry about a username and password if you don't want to. So we have something called class codes. We can sync with Google Classroom. We can sync with the Clever service, as well as you can create a standard class, and that's where I'll let that one go because you're probably going to use one of the first three I mentioned. So when you go to edu.sphero.com, you'll log in with your teacher credentials to log in. Also note that we do sync with Google. So if you have a Gmail address that you want to use, or your school uses Google Classroom, or any of the Google tools, you can create a login for yourself using those tools very, very simply. So once you log in, you'll click on the My Classes, then click on the Create New Class button. And the first thing I'm going to show you here is that class code. Click on class code, and then you have the super challenging part of naming your class. It is literally the hardest thing you'll have to do when you create a class code, is name the class so that you know what it is. So it should be pretty easy for you. And then from there, you can choose to add students. The cool part is here, when you're adding students using a class code, you're entering a first name, a last initial, and that is it. So we are not collecting any private data or anything like that. So there's no concerns over student data privacy or anything like that. Students don't need to remember usernames and passwords in this kind of setup. They will literally enter the class code that is assigned and choose their name from the drop-down menu. If you don't want to take the time to type all their names in there, no problem. You can actually let the students do that the first time they log in if you want to. Remember, I taught high school. I would end up with some really interesting usernames, as you would imagine from high school students. So I always chose to put their first name and last initial in there just to make sure I knew what I was going to get in there, right? So the other way, most common way, is a Google Classroom sync. So it's the same first two steps, and you click on Google Classroom sync. You type in your credentials, get it set up, choose what data you want to sync. It will bring all of that over. When it deals with student privacy, it's literally just pulling the information from your Google Classroom, and students will then log in using their Google credentials to access the Sphero Edu class. And the same thing is true with Clever Sync. So if your district uses Clever, you can do the same thing with Clever. All right, so what robots can you use in there? Well, our four most current robots, Bolt Plus, RVR Plus, Bolt, and Mini are all in there. But don't worry, if you have things like Spark Plus or Spark, or maybe you're an OG Sphero user and you have some of our older Star Wars bots and things like that, you can actually still program them in Sphero Edu. You just have to click on the Legacy Robot button when you're making your program, and all of those robots can still be connected to and used. We have these because these four allow you to filter by those robots right inside of Sphero Central. So when it comes time to find a lesson, using that link that Shante provided earlier, that edu.sphero.com, and then clicking on Bolt Plus, Rover Plus, or Mini, will bring you to a window that looks like this. From here, you can choose what you're looking for. You can click on Lessons, Resources, and start diving through that process. When you're in Lessons, we have a Collections tab. And that Collections tab is a grouping of lessons that are based on a particular topic. So you can see here, just in this screenshot, we have the Bolt Plus Programming Core 1.0. We have elementary math for Bolt, but you can filter by the robot or robots that you have and really check out those collections. But there are many, many, many more lessons beyond what's in Collections. And that's when you click on that Sphero Lessons tab to be able to do that. From there, again, you can filter by robot, you can filter by grade level, and you can search in that search area. So you can search by standard, subject area, lesson name, or if you're familiar with our lesson code scheme, you can actually type in a lesson code there and it'll take you directly to a particular lesson. If you're not sure what I'm talking about there, open up any one of our lessons and look in the kind of the top left corner there. It'll say lesson code, and you can see that. If you're ever trying to share a particular lesson with another teacher, that's how I recommend doing it, is providing them a lesson code so they can search for it directly. We do also have those community lessons that I mentioned before. Those are not made by Sphero or our content team. They're made by you all. And we do moderate those just to make sure that they're school appropriate, and then publish them. It does happen 4 days a week. We go through that, and our content team takes care of that. I mentioned the search here. You can go ahead and explore searching things there. I do, and this is true when you're searching for any kind of content, not just in Sphero Central, be careful. You can over filter yourself, right? Like choosing a grade level, choosing a robot, and then searching for a particular thing, right? Try to start with a wide net and then narrow it down. When it comes time to assign a lesson, so go find that lesson. In this case, I'm going to use engineering design. Of course, I was a tech and engineering teacher. So I will find that lesson. And once I've read through the lesson, made sure this is really what I want to do, this lesson's actually really fun. It's like playing a game of laser tag using the IR sensors in there. I can click on the assign button, choose the class that I want to assign that lesson to, hit the button, and now every student in that class has that lesson ready to go. So we've made it super, super simple to find the best content that fits your needs and assign it to your students in a very quick way. So let's talk a little more about the Sphero Edu app. So when you first launch the Sphero Edu app, you can choose to log in as a student, a teacher, or if you never want to deal with logins at all, that right choice there called Quick Start, you just hit that Let's Code button. You can skip creating accounts. You don't have to deal with it at all. Just hit that Let's Code. It's going to take you right into the app. And you can actually then search by lesson code if you want to pull up a lesson, or just start coding, right? Make a new program and start coding. When you do this, all the data is saved locally to that device. So if students are sharing a device, this can sometimes be a little problematic because then students are opening other programs, other students' programs, that kind of thing. So it really depends on your deployment scenario and how you're going to do that. We never, ever want our students not to be able to use the robot. So we give you as many choices as possible so that there's always flexibility to get into that robot and start using it. Now, that part that we've all been waiting for, because I feel like I've tortured you for almost 40 minutes now, right, is that upgrade program. So we do have an upgrade program to be able to upgrade your robots, your older legacy robots, up to Bolt Plus. So if you have Bolt, you can turn in your bolts for a discount on Bolt Plus. So for every Bolt robot you return, you can purchase a new Bolt Plus robot for $129. So that's a $70 savings for that. And if you have a power pack, you can return that power pack for a savings of $1,050. So really gives you that discount, makes it maybe a little more achievable to upgrade those robots with budgets. If you have older robots like Spark Plus, we do have a program for those as well. So you can turn those in and get a discount as well to upgrade directly to Bolt Plus. There is a Google form there, and it looks like it is in our chat. Thank you very much. You can click on that, fill out that form, and a sales rep and customer support person will be in touch with you to help you through that process. When it comes to shipping, we actually send you a prepaid shipping label. So the shipping's on us. you will send back your old robots. Once we receive them and inventory them, you'll be issued that discount code and can purchase from there. So that is our upgrade program. Hopefully some of you can utilize that to get the really cool newest version of our spherical robot, Bolt Plus. All right, with that being said, I'm going to kick it back here to Shantae for just a moment. And if you have any other questions, please throw them in the chat.
Thank you so much, Brad. That was extremely helpful for me. And also, I know there's a lot of people on here that I have worked with personally that definitely benefited from this as well. So we really appreciate you spending time with us.
Awesome. Yeah.
You know, I always like seeing you too. So, but I put in the chat, if you guys didn't see it, a link to a grant page that our company runs. We try to put it together, and it's grants from all over the United States. We just keep track of grants that are in the STEM education world and try to keep track of that for y'all so you don't have to go looking for them. Yes, I said y'all like a Texan, but I always catch myself in there every time I say it. But if you need help with that, or you want to get some money towards getting some new equipment, definitely let us know if you're going to apply, and we can help you with getting you just like pricing points and things as well. So anyway, questions for Brad? Anything that we can help you guys out with? And before I forget, since I'm thinking about this, I will be having, everyone's going to receive a certificate from today with an hour of PD credit. So you'll get a certificate sent to you on your email that you registered with for this. So hold tight. Also, our amazing editor and videographer that runs all of this is going to be editing the video, and we'll be putting it out on YouTube and on different platforms. So you'll be able to rewatch and or share. He usually has it done pretty quickly. So look for that. It'll be sent in your email. All right. What questions for Brad? Anything for him? He is a pretty amazing resource. I go to him for basically everything I need help with. If I can't answer it and I come back with an answer within a little while, it's because I went to Brad. So.
Oh, great, great question from Daniel here about are we at a point of being device agnostic for connecting to devices? Pretty much. I'll throw out the handful of caveats that are out there for things. So our app supports iOS, Android, which also supports Chromebooks, Windows, Mac, Fire tablets, and you can do, so that's for our native app. And then we also have that web app that runs in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. So you have a ton of ways to connect. The few things that do not work, Apple devices, so any iOS device, so an iPhone or an iPad, they do not allow WebBLE. So you won't be able to use the web programming app if you're using an iPad or an iPhone. You'll have to download and install our app through the App Store. And if you're using a web browser that's other than Chrome or Edge, you know, Firefox, things like that, Safari, we don't support those with our web app as of right now. So you're going to want to make sure you use one of those. I think the only other thing that I can think of is if like you're using like a Fire tablet, trying to use the web app isn't very user friendly. So you're probably going to want to actually use the app that's native for the Fire tablet. But I think we have covered as many possible options for you to be able to connect to the robot as we possibly can. So that's a great question. Thank you for that one, Daniel.
Yes, that was a really good question, because that's going to be one that I'm going to be asked. And I'm glad that I know the answer to that officially now. That's great. That's huge. That's really amazing, because that's difficult for a lot of people. So to get that to that point, y'all worked hard. Usually it's like better for this one, but we can use this one. But yeah, it's nice to have a platform that you can use it on anything now.
Yeah. Definitely.
And the connections are a lot better, right, with the robot and the devices with these pluses, right? As far as the connectivity is a lot stronger, right?
Yep, yeah. We're still using Bluetooth, so you have Bluetooth range. Not all Bluetooth chipsets are equal, so it depends what kind of device you're using. The amazing part about that is like I've had Chromebooks that are just as good, if not better, than my MacBook, and then I've had Chromebooks that I think if I set the robot on top of it, the Bluetooth is just like, yeah, not having
Not
it.
happening. Yeah,
Um, you know, so not all devices are created equal.
sure.
But when it comes to that, we have not found a device that we cannot connect to
Yeah,
when it comes to that. As long as
sounds
it has
accepted.
Bluetooth, it works. Yeah.
I love it. Perfect. What is the benefit? This is a question that I wanted to ask just for my own curiosity, but what do you feel like is the benefit for teachers to create a class? Because they can also just have the kids do the activity and teach it without assigning them the actual project, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's really, for me, it's very, very situational, right? If I'm going to use my Sphero robot in a classroom on a somewhat regular basis, I find it helpful to create that class. The
Okay.
benefit to that is I don't have to go to the student's programming device to see their code. I can actually look at their code from my own device,
Okay.
um, and see what they've done. Now it's not real time, like I'm not going to see them dragging a block across the
Sure.
screen or anything like that. But basically, every time I refresh the screen, it's going to look at that program and show it, which is
Okay.
really really pretty cool to be able to do that. The other part is, sometimes you get that one student that maybe transferred into the district or just like is really into this, and they like scream through the lessons really fast. You actually have the ability to, kind of give them a bunch of lessons uh, that the rest of the class doesn't have, to keep them doing
Okay.
something constructive. And that way Bolt Plus doesn't become the baseball or the kickball in the room.
Right.
Keep them learning and doing the fun things that way. So that's the best way. Me personally, when I'm doing things, like every now and then I'll be like a guest teacher somewhere. If we have new content that we're testing out, or new robot, those kinds of things, I'll show up. I'll just use the lesson code. I'll be like,
Okay.
on Let's Code, here's the lesson code, type this in, let's get rolling,
Let's
because I
roll.
deal with all the setup stuff, right?
Sure.
So if you're in a situation where you're going to see these kids once or twice, or they're only going to use this robot for a few days and that's it, give them the lesson code, tap that Let's Code button, and get moving.
And
Uh,
go. Love
don't
it.
don't waste your time setting all this stuff up when you can just get them rolling.
Makes
So that's
sense.
that's a
Thank you.
great question.
Well, we have one in the chat about charging and
Oh yeah,
for some
great.
troubleshooting.
Great question. So on now, my charger's not plugged in, so my LED is not going to light up. Sorry, but on the front of the LED, or of the charger, and FYI, in the power pack, these things can spin, right?
Mm,
So the LED may not be in the front. Just turn it so you can see the LED. If the LED is red, it means that the robot is not sitting in here correctly, right? And the way to fix that is remove it from the cradle. So lift it up, and then um, wait until this starts blinking, and then set it back down and make sure you level it. You got like, I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds or so to level this thing. If it's way out of level, it's not going to charge. So one of the new things about Bolt Plus compared to our older round robots, we are now using the Qi standard charging. So just like your phone, if it does wireless charging where you set it on there, that is a standard, and we have switched to that standard. So that standard requires FOD detection, or like a foreign object detection. So if a kid threw a quarter or something in here, we obviously don't want it heating up that quarter with the charging coil. So when it actually will detect the robot like that. If the LEDs aren't lighting up at all there, you'll probably want to contact our support. It could be that it's a bad power supply, and we will certainly exchange that for you right away. But you can email us at support@sphero.com, and that will get you right to our support staff. They'll have you do a couple little troubleshooting things, and if it is an actual physical problem, they'll help you out.
And sometimes is it because the switch is not?
I think you're in my area as well, so let me know. Maybe we can link up and check it out.
Oh, you're charging it into a laptop charging cart. That might be there's not enough wattage.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, it could be the power that you're using there. So if you're not using it in a power pack, if you are plugging in here, make sure that you're using a good USB-C cable, and make sure you're using a working wall wart or whatever it might be, whether it's plugging it into a laptop or whatever that might be, to do that. Not all cables are the same. Not all those wall warts are the same. You want to make sure that you have, it needs at least 5 volts to do that. But yeah, that's a great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in Lebanon County. I drove right past you on 81 this morning.
Right down the road.
Yes.
Oftentimes I've had people forget to turn the switch on in the front of their bolt packs when they plug them in. Because it's like you think, oh, I'm charging them because I plugged them in, but there's an on-off switch, and I've had many people be like, it's not charging. So
yeah, and that's true on the Bolt power pack, but Bolt Plus power pack does not have that switch.
Oh, it doesn't have a switch anymore. Yeah.
Not. You just plug it in and you're good, because our battery management doesn't require a switch anymore.
Great, love that.
Way improved.
That's amazing. I'm liking everything I'm hearing. Any other questions for Brad?
I think Daniel had one in here.
Oh, he did?
Yep. I'm going to jump over here real quick so I can read it. There we go.
Oh, the bots themselves when they're completely dead. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so it depends. Like the older robots, they're a lithium ion battery, right? So we've all had we've all known this teacher, or maybe we've been that teacher with those things where we get that brand new laptop, we set it on our desk, and we plug it in, and we never unplug it, right? It just sits there, and what happens is that charger is charging that battery, and then it uses just a little bit of energy. So when it stops charging, and then it recharges it, and a lithium ion battery has a set number of charge cycles, and then it will stop working at some point, right? That is just what happens. I mean, think about your cell phone that you probably pay upwards of $1,000 for now, right? And they're like, those batteries don't last forever, right? And it's the same thing with the laptop, and it's the same thing with a robot. We have fixed that issue with Bolt Plus. Bolt Plus automatically goes into what we call deep sleep. And if you're using Bolt, you should check that out. If you go into Sphero Central and then click on Bolt, filter by Bolt, and click on resources, there is a video in there. You get to see Nate's lovely acting skills one more time. And he will tell you how to put Bolt into deep sleep so that it does not charge and discharge and charge and discharge. Bolt Plus won't do that. This thing automatically goes into deep sleep. Mine's in deep sleep right now already. And if I want to wake it up, I just give it a shake, and you'll see that thing will wake up, and it'll be ready to roll right away for you.
Yes.
And I think, I forget the exact time, don't quote me on this, but I think it's right around 2 minutes. It'll go back into deep sleep, and it can sit there for a very long time. But yeah, no, that's a great tip and a great observation.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that part of it, I feel like I have to say a lot, because I feel like when we first started getting technology and robots like this, we felt like we had to keep them plugged in, and now we're realizing, hey, unplugging them is actually kind of helpful for the robots. So I'm glad it's intuitive now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Awesome. It's been amazing to be with you. I'm excited to see more of these Bolt Pluses come out, and I think it's going to be a great change. And I'm excited to see some kids playing with them more, because we haven't seen them in action like that yet. So
the robots are amazing. Matter of fact, I'll be doing a training on them tomorrow here for the district in Florida. And so we have some robots out there, and there's a lot of new content. There's like nearly 50 lessons that are strictly for Bolt Plus that rolled out at the same time as we launched the robot, and more content coming. So there's more and more happening. Our content team is very, very busy right now, furiously writing for all of the new things that we have going on, not just Bolt Plus, but also the Blueprint Engineering product line has a lot of new things. So check that out as well. If you're on the electromechanical engineering kind of kick, that's a really cool thing to use as well.
Love it. I can't wait to see all of that. Okay. If there's no more questions, we'll give you just a second in case there is, but if there's no more questions, thank you, Brad, so much for giving of yourself. I know you're traveling in the middle of going everywhere, and you took time out, which is super kind. I owe you one now. So
no, this was awesome. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's always good to have a little chat with you, Shantae, and it's always fun to see what you guys are doing with it. And we love that you're out there helping customers that are helping our students, right? Like that's our end goal, is to get these things in the hands of students and get them learning.
Exactly. I love it. Okay, there's a thing straight for you, Brad, in the chat.
All right. Yep, and I will. I'll put my email address in here, and this is for anyone. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to Shantae or myself.
Yep, I'll put mine in the chat too, just in case.
That way, it is all there. But Andy, I'm very familiar. We probably know the same teachers. We probably sat in a training together at some point. So so send me an email and we'll get in touch, and we'll get that power pack working for you.
Thank you so much, Brad. Yes, thank you guys so much for coming. And you will be getting an email from us with the certificate and the recording hopefully soon. Usually we have it out the next day, but I don't want to put that out there in the world, but it's already happened. So here it is. Now I put the pressure on Cole to get it out there. But we're really excited to share it and love partnering with Sphero, obviously. And next month we're doing a whole session for our webinar on PBL. I'm going to talk about implementing PBL into your classroom and how STEM and PBL can work side by side. So if you're interested in that, look for an invite if you guys want to come to that one. Other than that, thank you for coming. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And Brad, I will probably see you at the next show, at least.
All right. Sounds good. I look forward to it.
All right. Enjoy Florida.
Thanks.
Bye, you guys.